Welcome back to the Sports Source. This segment brought to you by Daniel Hood Roofing. If your roof is more than a decade old, if you've spotted granules coming down your gutters or onto your driveway, if you've seen black streaks in your roof, those are all warning signs that your home already may be dealing with water damage. Call Daniel Hood Roofing this week for a free inspection. DanielHoodRoofing.com.
I think it's very fair to think that next year a very realistic expectation for Tennessee is to be in the playoffs. I think most fans would be upset if they weren't. Are they good enough up front defensively? Are they good enough up front offensively, bringing a lot of veterans back in the offensive line? I mean, that's certainly where you want to start. And I think that people will ask me, and I'm sure they'll ask you probably already have, what's realistic for Tennessee? Well, to me, it's being in the playoff next year.
All right, that was ESPN's Chris Lowe. Bob Hodge down there laughing, so I'm going to start with him. ESPN's Chris Lowe this week on some show on 99.1 The Sports Animal.
Very
Jason Swain does a great job. Who's the guy with him? Josh Ward. So you guys
a lot
had,
of people upset.
You guys had Chris Lowe on there with you. His take is the expectation for Tennessee next year is the college football playoff. Bob Hodge, do you agree?
No. If you're expecting them to be in the playoffs next year, then you're probably going to be disappointed. I mean, you go to Oklahoma. Who knows what Oklahoma had? You go to you got
probably
Alabama,
something good.
You got Alabama coming here. You got to go to Georgia. You always struggle with Florida. The expectation should be wrong word. Hope. Okay,
goal.
I'll go with hope.
I'd go with goal.
Set it as a goal. But if you're saying that's your expectation and you're going to be disappointed, chalk up, you ain't getting a pony for Christmas again, you're going to be disappointed.
All right, should that be the expectation, Josh?
Well, goal is probably better. Maybe we get there with the expectation with some of the things Chris mentioned in that clip that you just played and what you guys talked about in the last segment. Are you good enough on the offensive line? Do they land the guys they have to, in my opinion, get in the transfer portal to protect Nico, for the offense to run the way that it needs to? Those are questions that I need answered before I can say that. Internally, I do think they need to set the expectation
internally
for themselves. So the funny thing is, I think internal expectation should be higher than what we talk about here on this show or what fans talk about day to day.
Agree completely.
I think it's hard to know the first year of the playoff. Like, what is a playoff team? How does this system work in the sense of when you get down to it? Because, look, I look at this Tennessee team and I go, 9-3 is probably the good year, the really good year. 8-4 is a possibility. So if you're 9-3, is that good enough to get in the playoff mix? If Ole Miss and other people, I mean, like that's how many SEC teams are they gonna? Because they're still going to engineer who gets into this playoff
I would think
system.
You better be one of the four best in your conference, SEC or Big Ten. I would think maybe the fifth team gets in, but if you want to feel good, I would think you need to be at least the fourth best team in your conference. Which that's a high bar with Texas, Oklahoma, Alabama, Georgia. Missouri's got an easy schedule.
Yep.
So it's questionable.
First year of a new playoff system, first year of a new SEC scheduling model as well. So that's something to think about. What is Oklahoma going to bring to the table? I'm not a big Brent Venables fan. I think 9-3 is going to happen. I think let's see if they can add players or not. Right now, I would say my expectations, they're not getting there. They get that tackle from Kansas. Maybe that adds a game to me because I don't think it's going to be that difficult to go to Oklahoma and beat Brent Venables because I think that guy's kind of questionable as a coach, honestly.
I wish I saw the world through your eyes.
Oh, I just think that guy's terrible. That's why. I think he's a bad coach,
By the way,
he doesn't have a ton of great players.
I got a bunch of emails last week from Georgia people wanting me to bring up your Mike Bobo take from earlier this season.
I thought Bobo did a great job.
Well,
I thought
adjusting
to what he needed to do, and they struggled offensively until he got away from that.
I'm just teasing you.
Fair enough.
You're good at talk show. You were definitive. I respect the heck out of Chris Lowe. I think he does a great job in terms of reporter. I think he's actually well connected. But when I heard that statement, I thought of an old song. I just think he's got too many Cheez-It colored glasses on.
Yeah.
I think that everybody looked at that bowl and thought that this
Tennessee
is
has 22 starters next year. I want everybody right now to start telling me who they are. You don't even know what your starting lineup is going to be.
The other thing, too, you have to look at is what were people saying about Joe Milton after last year's bowl game?
Yeah.
Heisman Trophy, first round pick, yada, 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 yada. I mean,
and who said all season and was called negative for it that it wasn't that great a performance. Look at the numbers. And I was Mr. Negative. And it turns out it wasn't that great a performance. It was good. It wasn't great.
yeah.
You know, it's just the hype train gets a little ahead. Again, I think it's possible. My expectation for Tennessee is to be in the playoff mix come November. I think they should be in the playoff mix come November. But I don't think playoff is the expectation.
I think 10-2 gets Tennessee in the playoffs now.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay.
Agreed.
To me,
Without doubt.
that's a pretty high bar when you look at things and you say, okay, one, we can't stumble against anybody that we think we're better than, and we've got Georgia and Alabama hanging out there in front of us.
Let me show you why I think the expectation thing is a little too high. If there was a 12-team playoff this year, let's go ahead and show this if we can. These were the 12 quarterbacks who would have gotten in. All of them have more experience than Nico Iamaleava will have next year. The only one, look, 6th year, 5th year, 4th year, 3rd year, Drew Aller at Penn State was in his 2nd year, sophomore, but he had 12 starts as a true freshman. So Nico, if he made the playoff next year, he would be far younger and less experienced than any of the guys who would have made it this year. I just think it's asking an awful lot with a rookie quarterback and the question marks we've already mentioned in a tough conference to say the expectation is playoff. I expect them to be in the mix. I would be disappointed if they're not in the mix. I'm not going to be disappointed if they don't make it.
Well,
You finish it. It's your show.
That is part of it too.
Radio
is
show.
How we react to expectation. Like this season, I expected Tennessee to go 9-3. They didn't. They went 8-4. We're going to get to what that means for the season with the bowl game
next.
as well.
Yeah.
But how we react to what the expectation is, like setting a higher expectation because you think the program has risen. Marlon said Tennessee's back earlier. I think that's a good thing. Overreacting if you fall just short of the expectation ends up being a big issue.
Which to me is the difference between, it's why you say goal instead of expectation. But I'm alone in that because people usually say
No, you're not
expectation is 25-0, but they only
not-
play
you're
12
not,
games.
You're not alone.
Okay, Bob's. Come
We're
on back
alone.
on the Sports Source. When we come back, we'll talk about something that Josh just said probably. That whole, how was the season? Was it a disappointment? Was it a good season? Come on back. We're way over.